And we're back. Did you miss me? Of course you did. If you're joining us, we're reading Almost Odis by me, Dusty Thompson. Please buy your copy and follow along. If you are following along, we're on page 236. The blog dated Wednesday, good Lord, January 23rd, 2013. Funk in the 80s means something different. As we have previously discussed, the dad is a very generous person. He would give you his last nickel. And by you, I mean just that. You, me, anybody. Familial connection is not a prerequisite for this generosity. Of course, unlimited generosity has its downside. Recently, he told me that the button had come off a pair of his jeans, or whatever you call the metal fastener thing. It doesn't have an interesting name like aglet, which is the tip of your shoelace. He told me, by way of instructions for disposal, to donate them to them poor people at the Goodwill. My response, haven't they suffered enough, was met with offense, which I still don't understand. Did he really think anyone would want to own a pair of jeans that had been assaulted with malice aforethought and essentially rendered inoperable? I mean, if he's tired of wearing them, can you imagine what shape they're in? My gosh. Now, I could tell you I was simply thinking rustler jeans are not a quality garment when they are new. I swear you get a pair free with a big and tall underwear purchase at Walmart, but what I was truly thinking was if those pants could talk, they would either weep, throw up, or beg to be sent to wherever socks hide when they escape from your dryer and disappear. Someone told me they go to be with Jesus, and I don't know if that's true or not. We'll just have to let it lay there like other statements that make us unsure whether to laugh or pray for the speaker, or in this case, the writer. Apparently I was going to laugh because it just did. Feel free to laugh too. Jesus think I'll be mad. I know I've discussed the fragrance of my father more than is necessary, or so I've been told by my boss, but I just don't understand why there has been little success in that particular department. I have curbed his natural tendency to judge others aloud and have forced him kicking and screaming into a 60-pound weight loss without any exercise, but I simply cannot make headway in the olfactory department. And although his new recliner is leather, which does not retain smells like his previous velour one did, I find that I am forced to walk through my house every other day with a Febreze bottle continuously spraying over my shoulder like a dragon fruit scented mosquito truck, ever vigilant in the fight for a house that smells pretty. But it's the price you pay, I suppose, for housing the elderly, as I have discovered while discussing the dad with others, like one half of the set of twins who are my best friends in 7th through the 10th grades in Texas. Hey, Julianne, and also Denise. We were madly in like, also known as going together, for somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 weeks in 8th grade, but as young love does, it went out of style right around the time Panama Jack t-shirts came to prominence. For those who don't know or remember, Panama Jack was an overpriced t-shirt that was never owned by yours truly, he said, with only a trace of bitterness. Julianne and I met for dinner on my recent trip to Dallas, and in the midst of our laughter, gossip, and storytelling, we somehow found ourselves in the territory of older men's hygiene habits, in the absence of their wives. Old men are simply old men, and they have an odd fragrance, if you will. I always assumed my father's particular odor was a combination of bologna, feet, and onions with a dash of ornery, and a smidgen of righteous indignation at my insistence that he smells odd. I assumed that his hygiene practices were learned on the turn row, modified in the wilds of Vietnam, and subdued throughout my childhood by the sheer force of my mother's will. That explains why she always seemed wore out at the end of the day. That must be it, right? It couldn't have been her children. I don't speak for my siblings, but I can assure you, based on my recollections, I was quite simply a joy throughout my youth and remain so to this day. A joy, people. What? The dad says it's not bragging if it's a fact. I did, however, assume that people who are a bit fancier would have habits that are more in line with what you would imagine. And as Julianne's father is in a much higher tax bracket, I naively felt he wouldn't be gross, to use 80s parlance. She informed me over 2 different kinds of queso that old men are old men. May he rest in peace. Mr. James is gone, but we just love him. He was so wonderful. He was so nice to me, and I was completely a weirdo kid in the 80s in Texas, and I always appreciated that. And their mama, Miss D, took care of me because people were scared of her, and she was on my side, so yay me. Hey, Miss D. Apparently, it is not directly linked to income, education level, or any other arbitrary categories, and that is a sad statement indeed. I thought the great equalizer was Walmart. Apparently for old men, it's butt and feet. I wonder what age you start to smell. Is it just old men or is it all men? I asked my sister, and her response was, all men besides you are gross. Well said, sister of mine. Well said indeed. And we'll stop there, and we'll see you next time.